in Forza Motorsport 4. And I brought it here today to show you guys that are familiar with Forza 4 what difference a new graphics engine can make. So what you're going to notice is the play of light, the movement of light, and a lot more people on the track, a lot more detail, and the imperfections, divots in the concrete, scratches on the asphalt, strange things in the paint. That's all what makes this more human and more real, are the imperfections of our world. Let's get it started. Now I have to warn you, this is exactly where I was running into bugs earlier today. And so if this happens, I may have to call this part of the demo short, and I'm sorry for that. Pretty good. All right, so what you're seeing is hood view, obviously, and one of the great things about the wire is the way its active arrow moves around. Let's move the outside of the car. You can see the high contrast on the snow, a lot more imperfections on the road, and of course, the light streaming in. Now, one thing worth noting was we have an all-new approach to physics, and I was kind of hoping to talk about it for a second. So in Forza Motorsport 4, we had a new approach, something very novel. We went to Pirelli, and we asked them to do custom tests of our tires. And we changed our game. We changed the game so that we could take their custom data and input it directly into our game. That was a very novel approach. There's other games that are now trying that. And it was a way of making it so you could drive real data. But there were some things that happened in the interaction with Pirelli that kind of bothered me. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and physics is kind of my thing. And when I talked to Pirelli, I was asking them, how do we isolate some of the heat, some of the ways that those variables that are in the tires, how do we isolate those out so we can recreate them perfectly? And the Pirelli engineers basically said, you can't. Don't worry about it. You don't need to do that. And it's true, for their business, they don't need to do that. They're creating great tires, they do great testing for their tires. But I make a simulator. I need every single variable to be isolated, every one to be recreated in real time. So we came up with a new approach. We came with a new partner. That partner is Calspan. Now, most people haven't heard about Calspan unless you're an engineer. Because honestly, the tests that Pirelli were running on their tires, those are called Calspan tests. Because Calspan invented the equipment. They invented that whole rigging. Now, when I went to the Calspan guys and I said, how do we isolate all these variables? They had a very different reaction. I said, that's really a good question. I'm very interested in that too. So, they said, let's get back to you. I said, great, okay, what do you need from me? They said, we need tires. We need lots of tires. So, we ordered pallets and pallets and pallets of tires. Pirelli, Bridgestone, Yokohama, we ordered wide, thin, we had Racing Slicks, production tires from all over the world, and we shipped them to Calspan in Buffalo. And Calspan ran weeks of tests. And they gave me millions of data points. And I have to admit, it was more data than we were honestly expecting. So we had to then re-engage them and say, how are we even going to deal with this data? So this changed our approach entirely. So in Forza Motorsport 5, when you're driving these tires, you're actually driving cutting-edge physics. You're actually driving things that the tire industry didn't know about itself. In some ways, you could say that we know more about Pirelli tires than Pirelli Tires does now. And that, to me, is really exciting. This is what it's about, being on the cutting edge of a simulator. Because we're not just there with an epic, giant, big game at the launch of the Xbox One. We're also there giving people cutting-edge science in their living room that they can play with a controller. And the controller's better. You get better physics through the impulse triggers. And the engine runs at 1080p 60 frames per second. Now, I was going to let this demo keep running on this track, but unfortunately I noticed that around the last corner there was an issue that was coming. And so I unfortunately have to cut this off, so I'm sorry for that. We are going to switch over to a slide deck and switch away from this build. And again, I apologize. It was a bug that we just found as I was in transit from the United States with the build from my desk. So I will show you a screenshot. This is also from the same build. You can see the play of light and the atmosphere. You can see the way we've reconstructed Alps to look different than it ever has before. Tons of detail, really taking advantage of having a 1080p scene, being able to show that on track. And here's some other big news. For the first time in a long time, we've recaptured Silverstone. So we've had Silverstone in Forza Motorsport for a while. It's a great track. But the last version of Silverstone was not up to match with the actual tracks. They had done a major revision. They had changed the start-finish line, they had updated with the rules of Formula One, and now we've gone and recaptured Silverstone. But it's a new process as well. We're now laser scanning tracks, which has been going on for a little while. There has been laser scanning, but the issue was the laser scanners weren't really up to snuff. We were able to recreate tracks more accurately by bringing levels and GPS and scanning them. But we have a new rig for laser scanning that is accurate to the sub-centimeter level. It actually captures weeds. It captures divots in concrete. It captures amazing detail. It creates a point cloud. And so we are not just bringing Silverstone to fans, we're also bringing Silverstone to that level of accuracy. A level of accuracy has not been brought before. And of course, we're bringing it with our new physics engine, our new graphics engine. So this to me is really exciting. I love this track, and being able to drive it with the great cars and the great physics, I'm really excited to bring that to our fans. So that's most of what I was going to cover. Again,